Are you with me? It's the greatest England kit of all time.
I don't think in a million years that deserved to be a red card in a World Cup game. Do you?
And against Poland, I mean, we can say this, against Poland, Gary Lineker's life changes.
Bobby Rossum probably was thinking about alternative employment.
Fabio Capello was such a dictator, banning ketchup. When it comes to the England men's football team, its relationship with the World Cup is mixed, to say the very least. Some memorable days, of course, 1966 particularly, but plenty as well which have been excruciating and frankly really difficult to watch. So in this episode, we're going to have the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. Some of those days which live long in the memory and some that we want to forget instantly. This is Sport is History, how it all played out. Hello, I'm Mark Pougatch. I'm in Brooklyn at the moment doing the World Cup for ITV. And Marcus Buckland he's on his holidays actually in Turkey and is very happy because Ghana beat Panama by 0-0, Marcus. That's the big result for you.
It is the big result. Listen, if I'm sounding a bit croaky during this episode, I apologize. But it was a great night. It was a fun night. We were watching the England game with my two boys and my wife, Olivia, who has a great deal of interest in football. But she got into this. There were lots of Croatian fans in the room, quite a few Scots as well. And when Croatia scored, the Scots cheered even louder than the Croatian fans. But that was exciting. And then we thought, well, let's do a bit of a scouting mission and see how Ghana get on against Panama. Suddenly it was 4:00 in the morning. We got behind Ghana big time. They weren't very good, but of course they scored in about the 94th minute. I'm feeling just a little ropey as a result of that, MP, but I will battle on as professionally as I can.
So my England best is the opening game for England in 1982. England 3, France 1 in the broiling heat of Bilbao. And for our generation, Marcus, so you and I were born in the late 60s. The kids today don't know they're born. For our generation, it was the first time we'd seen England play a World Cup match. I was 14. So England obviously win the World Cup in 66. They go to Mexico in 1970 with an outstanding squad. Some say even better. They lose to West Germany 3-2 after being 2-0 up. They then don't qualify in 74. Tomaszewski, the clown, as christened by Brian Clough. The Polish goalkeeper keeps them at bay at Wembley. England don't qualify. 78, I think we mentioned last week. They are beaten by Italy only on goal difference. And then just quickly, because it's such a good story, the qualifying campaign for 1982 is torturous. Top two go through. England managed to lose 3 games and still qualify. They lost to Romania, they lost to Switzerland, and then they lose most famously to Norway. And if you've ever wondered why people go on, your boys took one hell of a beating. This is the genesis of it. When they lost 2-1, a man called Björn Lilililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililililil your boys took one hell of a beating.
Yeah, they did.
Like where it comes from. And because I'm such an arch nerd, you will love this. I remember this so clearly. England are then not going to go to the World Cup, and Ron Greenwood's in trouble, and the whole thing's a nightmare. And then Romania, who are in charge of the group, somehow lose at home to Switzerland on a Saturday afternoon. And I was listening to Sports Report, and Ray Clemence, who was in goal for your Tottenham Hotspur, actually said in his interview, because they announced it was played on Saturday, this World Cup qualifier, they announced the result during a first division game. And Ray Clemence said, I was taking a goal kick at White Hart Lane, and I heard the score over the tannoy, World Cup qualifier, Romania 1, Switzerland 2. And Ray Clemence goes, oh my God, we're back in contention to qualify. So it's only Romania cocking it up. England then have to beat Hungary. It'd already qualified. Paul Manor scores. England. Do you not remember, Marcus? I remember thinking, we're going to the World Cup. This is amazing.
Mark, absolutely, because as you said, we hadn't done it before, and we did mention in the show the other day that when the Scots qualified in 1978 and they were celebrating after the home international match against England, I was so jealous because I'm thinking, are we ever going to see England at a World Cup? And I did like Ron Greenwood, and we'd gone through such a dark period in the late 70s that there was that real sense of excitement. And I'm glad you've chosen this first game because obviously the campaign could not have got off to a better start.
Well, there are two, before they even get on the pitch, two magnificent things have happened. One, a fabulous song. This time, more than any other time, this time we're going to find a way. Find a way to get away this time.
Oh, okay,
Doing it all together. We'll do it right.
I've got a hangover. I told you, please stop that.
and the best England kit of all time. No discussion to be had. It is predominantly white or red. England played in red this day, and the red kit's even better than the white kit. It's an Admiral kit, and right at the top, it has the blue and white, or red or white, depending which kit you're wearing, little bars at the top. I've seen lots in the stands here. Are you with me? It's the greatest England kit of all time.
Correct me if I'm mistaken here, but I believe the fabric was so heavy and the players got so hot during that game that they made an official complaint to Admiral, and actually they changed the fabric before the next match. So it looked great, but it was very impractical in the heat.
Yeah, but it looked great. So they're playing two downsides were that Trevor Brooking and Kevin Keegan were injured. Now, Keegan was 31 at this stage, just past his peak, I think it's fair to say, but still England captain, was at Southampton. He'd had a back injury, and he was basically going from Spain to Germany, where he knew somebody, obviously, when he played for Hamburg, to try and help his back injury. And I think all the driving to Germany didn't help his back, but he was desperately trying to get fit. So Trevor Brooking had got an injury as well. But still, the first game, as I say, in the roasting heat, lunchtime kickoff. I remember running back from whatever I was running back from to watch the game. And after 27 seconds, England score. So you and I are sitting there, first World Cup match. Steve Coppell takes a throw in. Lord Terry Butcher, a friend of mine, heads it on. And Brian Robson acrobatically hooks it in left-footed. And you think, oh my God, we're going to win the World Cup. We've scored after 27 seconds. Absolutely fantastic. They do equalise the French, but in the second half, Robson scores this soaring, salmon-leaping header from a Trevor Francis cross, and then Paul Mariner volleys in the third, and he's so tired and so hot. He scores the goal and then takes on the demeanour of a man who's just reversed over his cat because he just doesn't have the energy to celebrate. Somebody runs up to him and shakes him by the hand, and you think, what a team! Because France they had Platini. They weren't quite Euro 84 France. But as we discussed last week with the arch-villain Battiston, this team, which is the semi-final, actually, this competition. But they had Platini, Giresse was on the bench. They had a fabulously flowing team. But England were on the front foot. They were aggressive. They were progressive. They had wide men. Steve Coppell one side, Graham Ricks the other. Actually, St. Glenn Hoddle was on the bench, interestingly. Wilkins and Robson. Up front, Mariner, Francis, Tony Woodcock's in the team. It was a really, really good team. And if you remember, Marcus, such a good team, they don't lose a game and they're still eliminated. They win the group. Do you remember that? They win the group and they still go out.
Well, because then there was a second group phase, wasn't there? And was it 2 goalless draws against Spain and Germany? So that tough group to be in. And I remember the whole time, though, there was the concerns about whether Robson would stay fit. But also you've mentioned that Brooking and Keegan, even if he was slightly past his best, they were such influential players. And I to this day, I wonder what England might have done had they been fully fit and had a bit more luck in front of goal as well in those second group games.
Well, it was such a shit idea, the second group game, so they scrapped them after this. It was a crap idea. England won the group and got basically penalised for it, as you say. So they beat France, they then beat Czechoslovakia, they then beat Kuwait. Into the second group was Spain, who were the hosts, and West Germany. They drew 0-0 with West Germany. Some German walloped the crossbar right at the death. And what it meant was that England had to beat Spain by 2 clear goals to progress to the semi-finals. And it was 0-0 with half an hour to go. Keegan came on, and Keegan misses a header. He screws a header wide, and that was simply rust. That was lack of rhythm, lack of timing. He would have scored a normal Keegan up to speed would have scored. And I'm watching and thinking, well, we're quite good here. We're really quite good. We haven't lost a game, and we're going out the World Cup. Is this the way it's going to be? And do you know what the answer is, Marcus? Yes, it's the way it's been.
Certainly has been. Up to now, at least. Hey, who knows what's going to happen over the course of the next few weeks. But yeah, I remember that game so vividly in 82. My first selection is from 1998. And depending on whether you're half full or half empty, this could either be the best or the worst. But But for me, it's one of the best experiences. I was there. I'm talking about St. Etienne, round of 16. It's England against Argentina. It's always going to be remembered for one incident in the second half in particular. But what I most vividly recall is the fact that a lot of us were out on a trip, managed to get hold of a ticket. I think I paid quite a lot of money for it. And then ended up sitting with a lot of the wives and girlfriends of the England players and all the FA and their blazers and all the rest of it. I'm thinking, well, I better try and behave myself, but there's no way you're going to behave yourself in this match, because right from the word go, things are happening. Now, Argentina, and at this stage, by the way, England were 5th in the world rankings, Argentina 6th. So there was a real belief that we can beat Argentina. This should be a terrific match. Worst possible start. David Seaman concedes a penalty after 7 minutes. He brings down Diego Simeone, who has quite an important role to play in this. He's a clever, wily character. And from the spot, who is it? Gabriel Batistuta makes it 1-0. Oh, here we go. How much money have I spent on this ticket? Anyway, within 5 minutes of that, Michael Owen is brought down inside the box by Ayala and upsets Alan Shearer. It's 1-1. Interestingly, I've read a couple of reports about this game recently, and they say in this day and age, probably both penalties wouldn't have been given. I'm not sure about that. Doesn't matter. They've cancelled each other out. And then comes one of the great moments. Michael Owen, who you know very well, you've worked with. He's only 18 years of age, gets the little pass from Beckham, goes flying forward. He is so quick. No one can catch him. Bursts inside the box, scores. Unbelievable. One of the great goals. Actually, now just talking about it, I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck sticking up. And after that, England are on top. They really should have gone 3-1 up. Paul Ince and Paul Scholes both have chances to make it 3-1. And then right on the stroke of halftime, we concede a free kick. Inevitably, Sol Campbell, who else, concedes the free kick. And to be fair to Argentina, it's a brilliantly well coordinated free kick. And Javier Zanetti peels away from the wall. And his first touch is so good. Now, he intended to shoot with his right foot. That's his strong foot. But he says his first touch was so good, it just set up for a left-footed shot. And he strikes it beautifully past David Seaman, and it's 2-2 at halftime. But I've got to say that was one of the most electrifying 45 minutes of World Cup football involving England that I'd ever seen up to that point.
The Owen goal is amazing. I remember throwing my son up in the air, who was 1 month old. He's okay. He's arriving next week. He's in one piece still. I caught him. I got good hands. I caught him. He's arriving for a game next week. But that was a beautifully constructed equaliser. And then I remember thinking, this is just the highest quality, elite level World Cup match.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, early in the second half, it all changes. And this incident has been debated ad nauseam since 1998. But watching it again, the referee is Kim Milton Nielsen of Denmark. And obviously, he sends off David Beckham for his little moment of petulance. He's down on the ground. Simeone's obviously being a pain in the arse. I mean, listen, what a great player. What a fantastic manager he's been as well. But the little flick of the boot from Beckham, I really do not think warranted a red card. And of course, it had huge implications, not just on the game, but for him over the next few years. All the hate came in. I think he grew up as well as a man. He had to after that. But I don't know if you agree. I don't think in a million years that deserved to be a red card in a World Cup game. Do you?
No. But he gave the referee a decision to make, didn't he? The problem is he gave the referee a decision to make right in front of the referee. And, you know, that's the it. And some would have given him and some wouldn't have given him. But the argument is don't give him that decision. Do you know, don't give him the ability to make that decision.
Yeah. 9 minutes to go. It must be a corner or a free kick. Comes in. Shearer sort of gets involved with his elbow, but it comes to Sol Campbell, who heads it home. We're all going absolutely crazy in the stands. England have scored. But bizarrely, the game carries on, and Argentina got the other end and very nearly scored themselves. I think, what is happening here? We've scored. No one seems to know it. And Shearer has been penalised for an elbow. And again, I think should have stood. I mean, I may not be Sol Campbell's greatest fan, but that should have stood. And England with 10 men would have won the game. Yeah, I can't believe I've forgotten that. It was one of the weirdest moments, though, Mark, when you're in the ground and you're celebrating, and yet you're sort of looking, they're still playing. What is happening here?
Brian Moore was doing the commentary on ITV. In fact, I know he was, and we were like, what's going on here? Because exactly as you are, I think Sol Campbell. I think that happened to him twice. I think Euro 2004 against Portugal, he scores, and we're all up and thinking he scored the winner, and it's disallowed. I mean, those are sliding doors moments, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, that was painful. So we get through to the penalties, and unfortunately, they're now in another 20 years. I think we'll have the same feeling. If it comes to a penalty shootout and it's England, it's going to go wrong. It's the same with Spurs. Actually, we very, very rarely get a penalty shootout right. Hernan Crespo and Paul Ince both miss early on, and then goal after goal after goal until it comes to the 10th one, and it's David Batty. Now, I didn't know the stat at the time, but he'd never taken a penalty before. Poor man. And here he's got to score just to keep England in the World Cup. And he doesn't. I mean, Carlos Roja, the goalkeeper, makes a decent save, but it's not a great penalty. And England are out. And I mean, the whole night was so exciting. The atmosphere was amazing inside. It's not a big stadium, but the noise was amazing. And as the penalties started, we're all singing the national anthem again. It was just a wonderful moment. It's going to be all right. We're going to do this. And we don't. And the funny thing is, going up, I had my England shirt on, and as I left the stadium, there's various photographers there, and the guy said, just pose, look unhappy. Wasn't hard to do. Next morning, I get home, back in the Daily Mirror, it's me, just disappointed England. So the whole thing is so vivid in my mind. And although we lost, I think, so I could say it's the worst experience. It's one of the best experiences I've had actually as a football fan.
And Ayala scores. He's never taken a penalty before in his career. Remarkable. It's Batty. Oh, he's missed it. And Argentina are through.
So those are our two best England games. One of them England didn't even win, but Marcus, I agree with you. I thought England played really well there. But worst England match, 1986 World Cup. England 0, Morocco 0. This was a nadir, and the press did not let England off. It was a time when the newspapers are still powerful, I suppose, but probably only as powerful as social media. But in these days, 1986, the newspapers were really powerful. England had lost the opening game to Portugal 1-0, and they hadn't qualified for Euro 84, so Bobby Robson was under real pressure. Hadn't qualified for Euro 84, lost the opening game to Portugal 1-0. Harry Miller in the Daily Mirror says Bobby Robson can start looking for alternative employment if England fail to reach the last 16 of the World Cup, because the headline after the draw, which was Portugal, Morocco, Poland, was nice and easy for England. I mean, can you imagine that? But talk about being a hostage to fortune. Nice and easy for England. So they play Morocco in Monterrey in 37 degrees on a really, if you have a look at the video, it's a really discolored pitch. The pitches were not great in Mexico in 86. We've talked about what the Azteca was like with the Maradona game. Another Mirror man, who actually you and I knew a little bit, Nigel Clark. Draw or defeat against Morocco is unthinkable. Our hopes and credibility as a football nation will be destroyed if we cannot beat them in Monterrey. Stuart Jones in the Times, Mark Hateley, big centre forward. Mark Hateley should inflict irreparable damage on the Moroccan defence. Well, that's all well and good, but the backstory was Brian Robson. And I mentioned him about 82. Brian Robson, England captain, best England player by a distance, a man who bestrode the 80s like a colossus, didn't he? Did everything, Mark, didn't he? He could tackle, he could score, he could head, he could pass, he could lead. He did absolutely everything, but he had a dodgy shoulder. And he had dislocated it actually in 1985, and Manchester United talked him out of an operation and went, no, we need to win the FA Cup, which they did. So he dislocated it in the sort of spring of 85. They win the FA Cup in 85, but then he initially dislocated it in January 1985. But he then dislocated again in the 85-86 season, and by then it's too late to have an operation because the World Cup's coming. So he's just thinking, oh shit, I hope it's okay. And in a warm-up game in Mexico, I actually didn't realize this, against Mexico, in a warm-up game, it pops out again, and he just slams it back in. So we've now got a situation, we don't know this, of course, and I don't know to what extent the players know this, where England's best player by a distance has got a dodgy shoulder. And fun enough, he says now in retrospect, he wishes Manchester United had not talked him out of having an operation in 1985 when he first did it, he says, I should have had an operation. Probably would have ruled him out for the rest of the 84-85 season, but he would have been fit 85-86. He'd have been fit for the World Cup, and it wouldn't have been an issue. And remember, 85-86, Manchester United start the season brilliantly. They win the first 15 games. They're unbeaten the first 15 games. They run out of steam a little bit. So we got a situation where England lose the first game, and now it's really up against Morocco, because Portugal aren't very good, but England didn't play very well. And as I say, the pitch really isn't very good. And midway through the first half, he chases the ball, Robson, down the inside left channel. He's tackled, nothing wrong with any of this, and he lands on his shoulder and he stays down. And you're looking at it. I remember very clearly watching this. I was 18, it was the middle of my A-levels, and I'm thinking, oh, crikey, what's happening here? And he gets up holding, I think there's someone on a stretcher, or there's someone on the physios, and he gets up holding his shoulder, and you think, that's it. And his shoulder's popped out, and his World Cup is over.
Yeah.
And a couple of minutes later, Ray Wilkins had already been booked. A decision goes against him, and he picks the ball up. And I don't think he's throwing it at him, but he just throws the ball back towards where the free kick has been awarded, and the ball hits the referee, and he's already on a yellow card. The second yellow comes out. So the space of about 10 minutes, England have lost their captain and their vice-captain. And you're thinking, oh, shit, here we go.
And Mark, the biggest surprise about that was, we all know, and I was very lucky to work with Ray Wilkins, we know what a calm, measured individual he was. For him to do that was absolutely shocking, particularly after what's just happened with Brian Robson. Yeah, I remember I was watching this at university. This was the World Cup, I think, when Saint and Greasy were on fire for ITV, but it was miserable. It's so funny that you mentioned the newspaper writers and how Graham Taylor was to discover it, even more to his cost, wasn't he, when he got all the turnips and all the rest. But to play for England must have been terrifying, because you see what's being written beforehand. You know they're going to come after you if things go wrong. So the pressure is there to begin with. And then you're not playing well. Then you lose your best player. Then you're down to 10 then because of Ray Wilkins. And at that stage, Bobby Robson probably was thinking about alternative employment.
Oh, 100%. Brian Robson, bless him, had done everything to get fit, having been talked out of an operation in January 85. He did everything. He was sent a brace by a rugby league player. This is in the run-up to the World Cup. And he went, I can't run with this brace. At one stage, a bit like you, Marcus, he was doing 1,000 press-ups a day to try and strengthen the muscles around his shoulder. He was doing absolutely everything he could to stay fit, because he was so fundamental to everything England did. But he'd been talked out of an operation when he shouldn't have done. The Moroccans are playing against 10 men, and they're very, very disciplined. Their coach is actually a Brazilian called Jose Faria. Apparently, I did watch it again at halftime. This one was on ITV. Kevin Keegan, we just mentioned, was then an ITV pundit. Actually was very perceptive at half-time and went, whatever you do, England, don't lose the game. You've already lost the opening game. If you lose 2 games, you're out. If you can draw this game, you've still got a chance of qualification. So don't do anything daft. So much as everyone goes, we love Kevin Keegan, when he was England manager, he didn't know anything about tactics. It was actually very shrewd there. And England got through the game 0-0, but they got lambasted. Steve Curry in the Express: barely in the checkered history of English international football has a nation been so badly let down by its sporting ambassadors abroad. Somebody else called it a disaster and a disgrace for England. And it was terrible, but it was also a sliding doors moment, because Robson and Wilkins out. In came into midfield Hoddle and Reed. Beardsley came in for Haitley. Trevor Stephen also came in as well. And England went to 4-4-2. And against Poland, we can say this, against Poland, Gary Lineker's life changes. His life changes. He scores a hat-trick, and England are off and running and are only beaten in the quarterfinal by the hand of God. So out of the ashes of a dreadful performance, although fair dues, they didn't concede in the second half, actually a little phoenix emerges of really a structure and a team for the rest of Mexico 86, which allows them to run Argentina very, very close in that quarterfinal.
Yeah. And I think 2 other things there. Morocco actually were, I think, a much better team than the English press was certainly giving them credit for. This was another big step in the right direction as far as African football was concerned. And with regards to Gary Lineker, I think there was talk of him actually being dropped
Yes,
for
completely.
that game, wasn't there? Because he gone like 6 games or something without a goal for England. He's certainly on a bit of a barren run. And so he's relieved when he's in the team, and Beardsley comes in, and those two together.
Well, he loved playing with Beardsley, didn't he, Gary? Because he would say that Beardsley wouldn't basically occupy his spaces on the pitch. You mentioned this is really worth making this point. I'm sure you remember this. In the summer of 1985, England went to Mexico and played a couple of games just to get used to the altitude. And they beat West Germany 3-0. The Germans just got off the plane. They were jet-lagged. Kerry Dixon scored 2 of those 3 goals. And at the time in 85, Kerry Dixon and Gary Lineker were pretty much head-to-head in terms of who was going to be England's number 9 going forward. I mean, it was that close. And as you say, after 2 games of the World Cup, when England had been crap, there must have been a part of Gary Lineker thinking, am I going to keep my place here? You know, it just shows, Roy Keane's always saying this, when you get an opportunity, take it. And he took it. He's got a brilliant first half hat trick. But suddenly the structure was right and the team was right and there were round pegs in round holes. And Glenn Hoddle came into the team and England had a bit of width, didn't they? John Barnes, well, Waddle particularly, then Barnes came on as well to augment that against Argentina. And England played really well after that. You know, Ray Wilkins never played for England again, which was a real shame because as I worked with him as well. He was the world's loveliest man, wasn't he? He was the world's loveliest man, Ray Wilkins.
Yeah, I didn't realize he never played again. That's a really sad end to what was a fantastic international career. And actually, just looking at with 2 red cards there, David Beckham became the 5th England player to be sent off in 1998. So I'm not sure what number Wilkins was, but it was very, it was unheard of really to be sent off playing for your country. So that was very tough for him. It just shows how often the darkest hour is just before the dawn. And Bobby Robson, of course, went on to have several more fantastic years as the England manager. Right, Mark, now you were at this game, I think, but the nadir, as far as I'm concerned, came in 2010 in Bloemfontein.
Oh my God.
It's the last, I'm sorry, this is going to bring back nightmares. It's the last 16 match against the Germans. Let me just run through the details. First of all, everyone is, there's a great little bit, if you go online to see how Alan Hansen before the match actually bigs up England's chances. He says this German side's not really very good. Oh, Alan, I think you might want to revisit that particular comment. But anyway, 1-0, Miroslav Klose. Now we've got John Terry and Matt Upson playing in central defence. For some reason, they're not playing Ledley King. Scandalous.
Well, I mean, Rio Ferdinand got injured in training just before they left. I think Emil Heskey bumped into him, obviously accidentally. So Rio Ferdinand got injured on the eve of the. Before you do this game, you're quite right to pick this out, but there had been an equally terrible game in the group stage against Algeria in Cape Town. Cape Town's beautiful, and I was so happy to go to Cape Town, and Greenpoint's a great stadium, and it was such a bad game. That's when the TV camera at the end of the game pans to Rooney coming off the pitch with all the England fans booing, and Rooney says something, oh, thanks a lot, or whatever. And I'm thinking, wait, it's a load of crap. That's why they're booing. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Rooney, he had a very poor World Cup. He'd be the first, I think, to admit to that now. Anyway, they've gone with Terry and Upson. The first goal, I mean, Neuer. There's a great line from Mark Lawrenson, who's co-com, and he says, what's the day today? I can't really do it, Lawrence. It's Sunday, isn't it? Well, I tell you, this morning, you'll have seen this goal on non-league pitches up and down the country, because it's just one long ball that goes right through what England defence actually is there. And Miroslav Klose says, thank you very much indeed, and tucks it away. It is diabolical defending. Alan Hansen was better when he was slagging off the defending rather than trying to praise the England team. So that's 1-0. 2-0. I mean, it's a great move, the second German goal, and you'd have been able to see it right from its inception. But England are opened up again, and there's a man over. It's Lucas Podolski, tucks it away 2-0. And at that stage, it looks like England's World Cup is over, really before it's started, because they at least expected to get to the quarterfinals. That's what we had become accustomed to. This England team was considered good enough to get to the semi-finals at least. And here we are, last 16, they're 2-0 down. And then there's a bit of hope. Steven Gerrard with a very good cross, and Upson may have been having trouble in his own penalty area, but he rises magnificently and he stays up in the air for such a long time. And he must think that Neuer's going to come and clobber him. But he heads the ball home. We're back in it. it's 2-1. And then, of course, comes the moment. And for all Spurs fans, shades of Pedro Mendes against Manchester United at Old Trafford. But
yeah,
Frank
just a bit
Lampard,
more important, this one, than Pedro Mendes.
I put it on the same level, actually, Mark. But yeah, maybe. I mean, the ball is so far over the line. But at this particular time, there's a big debate. Everybody wants goal line technology, with the exception of one person, Sepp Blatter, head of FIFA. Oh, no, it's far too expensive to implement this sort of technology worldwide. It's got to come down to a human decision. Fans love to debate such decisions. No fan loves to debate a blatant goal being disallowed that would have made it 2-2. And okay, England weren't playing very well, but obviously, Mark, if that goes in, the whole momentum has changed, and who knows what might have happened in the second half. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It wasn't even close. I could see from where I was, it was in. So I'm obviously in the commentary box. I can see from there, it's in. I mean, it's literally not even close. And then I know you'll do the rest of the game. The next day, we're in the airport, and I'm going to have a wee. And as I'm having a wee, I look to the man to my right, and I think, oh, shit, it's the ref from yesterday. And I can't remember where he's from. He's South American, I think.
Uruguay,
yeah. And I was about to say to him, why are you... And then I'm thinking, A, I'm nicely brought up by my mother. B, what's the point? And C, it's actually not a bit like Pedro Mendes. It's not really on the ref. It was on the linesman. It's actually not really on the ref, or it's on Sepp Blatter. And I'm thinking, what are you going to do? I mean, what's the man going to say? Shamefully, I don't speak Spanish. He probably doesn't speak English. And actually, get on the plane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could have made a big difference, but the truth is that England were out. But actually, in the second half, Lampard then has a fantastic free kick that thunders against the crossbar.
God, I've forgotten that. Does he?
Yeah, they're in the game for, and then there's a couple of other half chances, but England can't defend. They can't hold on to the ball, and they are hit by two sucker punch breakaway goals. I
remember Ozil's involved in one of them, isn't he?
Yeah, Ozil sets up the fourth for Thomas Muller. He's got the third one as well. 4-1. It's England's heaviest ever defeat at a World Cup. And I mean, they were pitiful by then. It was men against boys. I think it is worth pointing out, I'm not trying to slag off Alan Hansen too much because I thought he was a fantastic pundit, but that German side was actually very good. They go on to beat Argentina 4-0 in the quarterfinals and then lose very narrowly to the eventual winners, Spain, in the semi-finals, and they come third. They beat, I think it was Uruguay 3-2 in the third place playoff. So they were a good team, but equally, I mean, Fabio Capello, we know that there were problems behind the scenes. He had such a good set of players, but they just never, ever did themselves justice.
Fabio Capello was such a dictator, banning ketchup. And frankly, it just looked like the word fun was an anathema to the Italian. And they never looked like they were enjoying themselves. And it always looked in a massive strain. But what I remember even more after the Germany-England game was we were staying in, this is the only way I can describe it. We were staying it was in Bloemfontein, this game. And we were staying in a guest house, which was full of stuffed animals. It was full of taxidermy. And I went back and had a post-mortem live on the radio with Chris Waddle, surrounded by stuffed, I mean, I almost want to say stuffed lions and ostriches and snakes. I mean, I'm really not exaggerating. And Chris, who you would love, and I'm extremely fond of, you would particularly love because of Tottenham, and I'm very fond of him because he's a great man, went on one of the live on the radio, on BBC Radio, one of the best rants about the state of English football I've ever heard. And he ends up going, and it's a disgrace. And it was such a good rant that Chris Evans played the entire rant in full the next morning on his Radio 2 breakfast show to 8 million people. About the disgrace of the system, of the coaching, of overseas players, of the wrong emphasis of the way that we play in the Premier League. And to be fair to English football, things have got better since then. Of course they have. We've reached a World Cup quarterfinal, a World Cup semi-final. We've reached 2 European Championship finals. But the sort of the mix, almost the juxtaposition of stuffed animals and Chris Waddle going off on one, with England having been obliterated by Germany, and yet a goal over the line, which wasn't given, was just like, oh my God, this could only be England at the World Cup.
I think because we were all so frustrated there because there was so much ability within that.
It was the golden generation, Marcus.
It really was, Mark. And it failed to sparkle. The build-up to the game had been embarrassing as well. You know, back then, England playing Germany, all the war mentions in blitz this, blitz that. So the whole atmosphere was febrile before the game. And it was just, I think it's got to be, I mean, there have been plenty of lows, MP, but I think that has to be right up there.
Well, it does have to be up there. And also because it's I've just written down here, 206, 210, 214. England had some seriously good players. 206 in particular was the height of the golden generation. For 8 years, 3 World Cups, England were, with some really talented players, stunk the place out. So I think what we're saying, coming back to where we are, we're recording this now, the World Cup started. I hope this is going to be fun. At the very least, I hope this is fun. Because it was a hard watch that day in Bloemfontein. It really was. Well, Marcus, that was great fun. Thank you very much indeed. Please get in touch with us if there is an episode that you think we should investigate, because we love hearing your suggestions. The email address is sportishistory@spiritlandproductions.com. sportishistory@spiritlandproductions.com. Please watch us on YouTube. You can like, subscribe, and follow on Apple and Spotify. Please tell all your friends. We'll be back with a bonus episode very soon. He's Marcus Buckland. I'm Mark Pougatch, and we'll speak to you next time. Bye-bye.